Matt Verderame, Pro Football Writers of America, with us, breaking down everything you need to know about the Buffalo Bills heading into the NFL draft in the 2014 season. Matt, I want to play a little devil's advocate with you here because you say the Bills need a tackle. The Bills, remember, most rushing attempts, second most rushing yards. It was their passing game, to me, that was just so inept at times. Huge part of that due to the injuries. So what makes the Bills so good on the offensive line with the run and then so suspect with the pass? Remember, their leading wide receiver last year was their tight end Scott Chandler. Don't they need a playmaker?
Yeah, I mean they do, but I got to be honest. I think a big part of it, and this isn't to knock the kid, but I think a big part of it is just manual. He's got to play better. And I think also, watching the Bills quite a bit last year, one of the things that stood out was they were predictable. A lot of times they would pound the ball, first down, second down, then they'd be in a situation where, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and you can't make a living on 3rd and long in the NFL, especially with a young quarterback. Spiller and Jackson is probably not a better running back tandem in the league. They're both highly effective, different styles, but they get the job done. They can both catch the ball out of the backfield. But, I think they just struggle in the passing game, and some lines better run blockers and pass blockers. This line is a good example of that. They could use a guy who really solidifies that left side, and to pass on that in the first round is just tough because let's face it, those guys A, are hard to find, and B, are very expensive. The last time the Bills had a really good left tackle, probably Jason Peters.
Matt, I want to ask you this. It's another not sexy pick, maybe someone you get later in the draft, unless it is a DB or wide receiver, but a special teams player that's really, really dynamic. The Bills, I think they need one. They've got Spiller in the punt return game, but Leotis McKelvin has been that guy for a number of years, and fans are wearing thin with him. Is there someone that the Bills can get to help them on special teams? Is there a guy on special teams maybe later in the draft that people are talking about?
One guy to keep an eye on is Bree Archer. He's a receiver who's projected to go 3rd, maybe 4th round. He's one of the fastest players in the draft, and on tape he might be the fastest guy. To watch him just flat out play on the field. He's somebody who I could see maybe stepping in. There's another a Devontae Adams out of Fresno State. He's got a lot of skill. A fast guy who obviously also would serve as a receiver. So those are two guys that I could see later in the draft being somebody who could break a game open on a return or something of that nature. And not that he would go later in the draft, but if the Bills did decide to pull the trigger on a guy like a Beckham Jr., he's a guy who can return kicks. The same thing. If Brandon Cooks, if he falls out of the first round, falls to the second round, he's somebody who is expected to return kicks in the NFL at the NFL level. So, the Bills would have some options there.
Bills lose Jarris Byrd. We talked about that earlier. So that's a huge crippling loss to a defense that was really, really good against the pass. So that's one key departure from this Bills team. What have they done in the offseason to improve themselves, or are the Bills just waiting on the draft to see what they can bring in?
It seems like they're waiting on the draft, to be honest. Byrd was somebody that, the Bills made an effort to keep him. And it wasn't as though the Bills just said, well, we're going to let him walk. He's going to be overpaid. And the Bills, by all reports, all indications, they offered him a contract to make him the highest paid safety going, and he didn't want to stay. Whether that's because they just have not won enough since he's been there, or he just would rather not play in the area, who knows? But he decided to leave. And the Bills, they didn't do a whole heck of a lot to try to upgrade. Aaron Williams is going to be one of the safeties, and beyond that, there's a lot of uncertainty. It's going to be interesting. We know. The back end, they have him, they have Stephon Gilmore, McKelvin that you brought up. I don't know how much more rope he has, but he's still there. He's obviously a former first-round pick, so you would think at some point in the draft the Bills are going to try to address that need, and unless they really feel good about just who's in house. But it seems as though they would have to do something to try to upgrade the back end.
There have been some reports coming out as recently as today that the Bills are one of the teams maybe potentially trying to get up into the top 5. Do you buy that at all? And if so, who are they trying to get?
I don't buy that because it's such a deep draft. There are so many good, solid prospects. And, you never know how it turns out. We may look back in 5 years and say, that draft really was disappointing, but it's thought to be one of the deepest drafts in the last decade, if not the deepest. And the Bills have a bevy of holes as we've gone over. To me, that would be dumb. That would be short-sighted to try to move up a couple spots and maybe trade away your third-round pick, or even, all depending on how far they try to go up, second-round pick. I think Buffalo, you've got to stand pat, stay where you are, and take, maybe truthfully, maybe even move back, grab a couple extra picks, and then you can draft an Odell Beckham or somebody like that. Or, even a Mike Evans if that's who you really like, and then you're not really reaching, and you acquire more picks. So, no, I don't see them moving up. If they did move up, if they really went for it, maybe. Depending how far they moved up, maybe they try to get like a Khalil Mack. God knows,
hometown kid there, well, hometown college product.
Yeah, and then that's why it's. They'd have to move up probably quite a bit. They'd probably have to move up like where the Rams are picking to get him, but. Or maybe they moved up to like Sammy Watkins, but I just don't see that happening. I think they'll stay where they are.
All right, Matt Verderame, Pro Football Writers of America. We'll get you out of here on this. Now, the NFL schedule came out, roughly 2 weeks ago. For me, I think the Bills got a really, really tough draw. Not only in their crossover division, the teams they're going to see coming in to Ralph Wilson Stadium, they don't get the advantage of playing a warm weather team in cold Buffalo in December. They don't have Miami around Christmas time. They got San Diego in the first month of the season. They're going to see Green Bay, Minnesota, teams that are used to playing in the cold. So I don't think they got any help from the schedule makers. Where do you see them in the AFC East? Because it's tough for me to figure out. It seems to me that the Bills have a chance to make some noise in this division. Do you think they can?
No. I think they're going to be in last, because I just think ultimately New England's going to win the division. They do lose Talib, but they pick up Revis, and Talib couldn't hold Revis' jock strap, so I think they'll be all right. Plus, Revis is not outside. I know he's the one big injury, but he's not somebody who's normally hurt and mixed up where Talib always seems to have some kind of injury. But getting back to Buffalo, I think it's nothing. It's no disrespect to the team, but let's be honest. They haven't made the playoffs since 1999, and there's a reason. They consistently fail to pick the right players. They consistently fail to find the right free agents. And in this draft, they're going to have an opportunity to get very good players. But the problem is, unless they get immediate impact guys who just really turn around, they do not have a very strong free agency. They have a second-year coach who hasn't proven anything at this level yet. They have a second-year quarterback who hasn't proven anything at this level. And nobody fears the combination of Marone and Manuel right now. They also have a very tough schedule. They play the AFC West. They had 3 playoff teams last year. So they're going to play those teams. They're going to play an improved Raiders team. They're going to play the NFC North, which, there's nobody in that division who's easy. Maybe second Minnesota, that's a team the Bills probably should beat. But, that's a team, you never know, Peterson. You could rip off 200 yards in a game at any given time. And then they will probably have a new quarterback. So they're kind of a different team this year. I don't think the division's overwhelmingly tough. I think the Bills can compete with the Jets and the Dolphins. I don't think it's a stretch to say that the Bills can beat those teams. In fact, I know last year they beat up on Miami. But do I think overall they're better than those teams? I don't. I think the Bills, they have to get better. The quarterbacks, Manuel must improve. And I also think, when push comes to shove, they need another receiver, and that's something where I think the second-round pick, you probably, if you don't use it in the first round, so I don't expect it to, you have to